The secret of Jung and Schopenhauer: silence is the new power in the age of noise. Have you ever been in a room where the loudest person is clearly not the most powerful? In a high-stakes negotiation, a tense family discussion, or even a creative brainstorming session, there is a pressure, an unspoken rule, that to contribute, you must speak. To be seen, you must be heard. But what if this is a fundamental misunderstanding of power itself? We have been taught to fill the void, to fear the pause. We see silence as emptiness, as a confession of not knowing. But what if silence is not empty at all? What if it is a space brimming with potential? What if the most strategic response you can offer is no response at all? How can the deliberate absence of your words become the most powerful statement you can make? In our time together today, we will not simply praise being quiet. We will dismantle the myth that silence is weakness, and in its place, build a new understanding. We will explore silence as a fortress for the mind, a tool for strategic control, and the very bedrock of unshakable dignity. The world as we know it is a symphony of noise, a ceaseless theater of the will in its blind pursuit. Every force, from the market to our own social circles, demands a reaction, a comment, a performance. We are conditioned to believe that our value is measured by our output, by the noise we make. This frantic urge to speak, to assert, to fill every available pause is not a sign of vitality. More often than not, it's a symptom of a deep-seated fear of being ignored, of being deemed insignificant in the grand, chaotic machinery of existence. This external pressure, however, is merely a reflection of an internal tragicomedy. As Schopenhauer observed, we are all slaves to a blind, insatiable will to live, which pushes us to desire, to compete, to seek validation from external sources that can never satisfy us. The noise we make is the sound of our own dissatisfaction, the futile attempt to convince ourselves and others that our participation in this frantic game has some ultimate meaning, when often it is just a distraction from the emptiness of certain ambitions. To reclaim your strength, you must first reclaim your silence. This is not an act of surrender. It is a declaration of sovereignty over your own mind. It is the deliberate drawing of a boundary, a line in the sand that says, "My inner world is not for public consumption. My peace is not negotiable." This initial step is the most difficult, as it requires resisting the powerful pull of habit and the expectations of everyone around you. Consider the nature of true control. Does it lie in the frantic attempt to manage every external variable, to win every argument, to have the last word? Or does it lie in the one domain you can truly master, your own internal response? The world will always be a storm of conflicting desires and unforeseen events. The person who remains calm and centered in the eye of this storm is the one who holds real power, power that is internal, unassailable, and independent of circumstance. This is where silence becomes a fortress. It is the space you consciously create between an external stimulus and your response. In that space, which may last only a second, lies your freedom. Freedom from reacting emotionally, from being manipulated by the provocations of others, from uttering words you will later regret. It is a moment of pure potential where you can observe, assess, and choose your action with intention rather than instinct. Picture a high-stakes negotiation. An aggressive argument is thrown at you, designed to put you on the defensive. The expected reaction is an immediate, perhaps flustered, rebuttal. Instead, you offer a deliberate, measured silence. You hold the speaker's gaze, not with aggression, but with a calm focus. In that moment, the entire dynamic of the room shifts. The pressure is no longer on you, it's on them, in the space your silence has created. You have become the observer, and they, the observed. Think about the last time you were in an online argument or a group chat. The torrent of comments, the urgency to respond to a provocation, the need to defend your point of view. Silence, in that context, feels like defeat. But what really happens when you refuse to participate in that theater of the absurd? Your refusal to engage becomes the most powerful statement of all. It says, "My peace is more valuable than my need to be right. I'm not playing this game." You win not by fighting, but by transcending the battlefield. This practice requires moving beyond the simple ego, the persona we construct for the world. The ego craves validation. It needs to be seen as smart, capable, and correct. It's the ego that fears silence, for it mistakes a lack of words for a lack of worth. The deeper self, however, the core of your being, needs no such external validation. Its strength is not derived from acclaim, but from integration and self-knowledge. Silence, therefore, is the gateway to this deeper territory of the psyche. It is in silence that you can finally begin to listen. Not to the noise of the world, but to the subtle voice of your own intuition, the wisdom of your unconscious. It is a listening process that reveals your true motivations, your shadow fears, and your most authentic desires, which are so often drowned out by the noise of daily life. By cultivating silence, you begin to realize that strength isn't in the armor you wear, but in your ability to be vulnerable and authentic within your own inner space. Strength is not rigidity. It is the flexibility of a bamboo stalk that bends with the wind but does not break. Your silence is that flexibility, that capacity to absorb external pressure without losing your center. This path is not easy. As you quiet the external noise, you will inevitably be confronted with your own internal noise, the anxieties, the doubts, the unresolved memories, what Carl Jung called the shadow. These are the parts of ourselves that we repress and project onto others. Silence forces an encounter with this shadow, and this encounter can be profoundly uncomfortable. But it is precisely in this discomfort that the opportunity for growth lies. By sitting with these shadow aspects, without judgment and with a compassionate curiosity, you begin to integrate them. You strip them of the power they hold over you. You cease to be governed by unconscious fears and impulses and become a more conscious ruler of your own inner kingdom. Dignity is born from this integration. Dignity is not something granted to you by others. It is not a status or a title. It is the natural result of a deep self-respect, forged in the stillness of self-observation. It is the calm of someone who knows themselves, who has accepted both their light and their shadow, and who therefore cannot be easily shaken by the opinions or actions of others. This person does not need to prove their worth through words. Their presence speaks for itself. There is a weight, a gravity to their silence that is far more impactful than the most eloquent speech from someone who is internally fragmented. Their silence communicates control, self-awareness, and a strength that doesn't need to announce itself. As the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer said, the greatest wisdom is to enjoy the present and make it the main goal of life, without future expectations. Silence is the practice of being present. It is the refusal to live in the regretful past or the anxious future. It is the full acceptance of the now, with all its complexity and potential. By applying silence strategically, you are not manipulating others. On the contrary, you are creating an environment where the truth has more room to emerge. You force situations to slow down, to get off the autopilot of reaction and into the realm of conscious response. You offer others, and yourself, the opportunity to act from a place of greater clarity. Do not confuse this silence with shyness or passivity. Shyness is the fear of others' disapproval. Passivity is the inability to act. Strategic silence, on the other hand, is a deliberate choice made from a position of inner strength. It is the action of non-action, when that is the smartest move on the chessboard of life. Your silence then becomes a reflection of your mastery over your inner world. If you are at peace in your own center, the chaos of the outer world can draw near, but it cannot penetrate your citadel. You observe it the way you watch a storm from a distance, from the safety of your shelter. You can appreciate its power, but you are not destroyed by it. Therefore, the challenge presented to you is not to learn new words or cleverer arguments. The real work is to cultivate the inner space from which the power of silence emanates. It is to learn to be comfortable in your own stillness, to trust in your own presence, and to understand that your dignity is not something to be won, but something to be realized. Start small. In your next conversation, resist the urge to fill a pause. In your next decision, take 5 minutes of absolute silence before you choose. Notice the discomfort. Notice what emerges. This is the beginning of your journey to transform silence from a dreaded absence into a powerful presence, your most reliable tool for strength, control, and dignity. Now, I invite you to pause. Not just a pause in your reading, but a pause in the incessant flow of thoughts that accompanies you. I want to ask you a few questions. There are no right or wrong answers. The value is not in the answer itself, but in the act of questioning yourself honestly, in the space you create for an inner truth to emerge. Think of this as a dialogue, not with me, but with yourself. Are you ready to hear what you have to say? When was the last time you deliberately chose silence? Not because you were forced to, not because you had nothing to say, but as a conscious choice. Try to recall the situation. Where were you? Who were you with? What was the pressure to speak? And what did you feel the moment you chose, instead, to remain quiet? Was there discomfort, a sense of power, or perhaps an unexpected clarity? Our society rarely trains us for this choice. It trains us for discourse, for debate, for the quick comeback. Reclaiming your right to silence is, in itself, a revolutionary act. What stops you from using this tool more often? Let's dig deeper into that hesitation. To what extent are your ambitions the job title you're aiming for, the recognition you seek truly your own? Or are they just roles assigned to you in the grand play of the will, promising a satisfaction that, like a horizon, recedes as you advance? To question your own ambition is an act of profound philosophical rebellion. Do you feel that pressure to perform? To project an image of certainty, even when your inner self longs for a moment of reflection? Now, I ask you to turn your attention to your professional environment. Observe the power dynamics. Who truly holds the control and influence? Is it consistently the person who talks the most, who interrupts, who always has an answer on the tip of their tongue? Or at times, does the real power lie with that quiet individual who listens intently, who speaks little, but whose words, when spoken, carry immense weight? Think of the dynamic in a simple line for coffee. Who seems more secure? The person complaining impatiently, or the one who waits with a neutral calm, absorbed in their own thoughts, untouched by the petty drama around them? Think of a time you regretted speaking. A word said in anger, a promise made hastily, an opinion offered without due thought. Now, rewind that scene in your mind. Imagine that, in the crucial moment before the words came out, you had inserted a 3-second pause, a deliberate silence. Would you have said the same thing, in the same tone? Or would that brief window of stillness have given you the clarity to choose a different, wiser path? That space is your sovereignty. It is where you stop being a reactor to the world's stimuli and become a creator of your own reality. Let's go even deeper now, into the territory of your inner world. When you sit in silence, free from distractions, what do you hear? At first, you probably hear the echo of the world, the to-do list, worries about the future, the replay of past conversations. But if you stay in that silence longer, beyond that surface noise, what begins to emerge? What voices make themselves heard in the theater of your mind? Can you distinguish the voice of the inner critic, the one that judges and doubts your every move? Can you identify the internalized voices of your parents, your mentors, society, telling you what you should be and do? This is a crucial part of the journey. Many people run from silence because they are afraid of what they will find in there. They are afraid to face their own shadow, as Jung would describe it. Their fears, their insecurities, their unprocessed grief, but running from them doesn't make them disappear. It just gives them power over you, allowing them to operate in the shadows, dictating your reactions and limiting your potential. Courageous silence is the act of turning to face these parts of yourself. Not to fight with them, but to listen to them. What is your fear trying to protect?